In this video, we're going to talk about digital ethics as it relates to technology within early learning environments. A couple points I just want to make here. As you're going through this module, make sure you follow the slides, complete any polls, quizzes, or any other interactive material that you encounter. And if you have any questions regarding the discussion or the videos or the readings, please post those questions directly to Edmodo, where we can respond to them as a community. So we're going to begin today's class by taking a look at the difference between ethics and morality. This may seem somewhat different from the focus on ethical issues related to technology, but it's important to make a distinction between ethics and morality because issues, when contextualized as ethical issues, are much different than issues that are contextualized as moral issues. The first thing to keep in mind is that when we're looking at the difference between ethics and morality, there are different characteristics of each. The first is that ethics involve right and wrong. Generally speaking, they are universal or referred to as objective, and they're based on Aristotelian virtue theory, which basically speaks about virtues that people perspire to. Actually, perspire would be the wrong word. That means to sweat. Aspire would be the right word. So Aristotle talked about virtues that people really wanted to have as a good people. So if you wanted to be a good person, you would strive to be honest, or you would strive to have integrity. These are virtues that people want to have. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have them in all contexts, but they are virtues of a good person. And this is what Aristotle was referring to when he was talking about virtue ethics. Morality, on the other hand, focuses on the difference between good and bad, and a key point in this is that it is subjective. It is largely dependent on the person's individual opinion or belief, and not necessarily universal. And we'll take a look at an example in a minute. The result of this is that it's highly personalized, which means that one individual might have a completely different set of morals than another individual. This can be influenced by religion, it can be influenced by culture, but the key point here is regardless of what influences it, it is subjective. So how you believe, what you believe about something, if it's dependent on your cultural beliefs or on your religious beliefs, or on a situation, then this is going to fall into the category of morals. The second thing to consider is the context in which you find ethics and morals. You'll find different components within different contexts. So if we look at ethics, ethics are generally found in areas such as law, pieces of legislation, or professional codes of conduct. One example that we'll take a look at in a couple of slides is the Professional Code of Conduct for Early Childhood Educators. So this is an ethical code. It's not subjective, it's not dependent on your personal beliefs. It's the professional code that all early childhood educators are held to. You don't have a personal opinion on the ethics. It's a universal code and you're expected to follow it. Morality, on the other hand, again, follows this subjective, personalized view. So this could be based on religious norms, it could be on cultural values, or on personal opinions. Now, this is, although I've made this wonderfully looking chart, it's not always a clear distinction. So I'm going to try and give you one example that tries to identify the difference between ethics and morals. Now, this example is definitely removed from ethical issues related to technology. But as noted, the reason I'm using this example is because it helps to provide a distinction between ethics and morals. So the question here that really highlights this is people's beliefs about homosexuality. This data is actually taken directly from students at the college and getting within the ECE program and getting their opinions on homosexuality. So when you ask students who are early childhood educators or early childhood educators in training what they believe about homosexuality, and you ask them, do you believe that homosexuality is wrong? What you get is a 61% of students believe that homosexuality is wrong. 30% say no, and 7.7% say they're unsure. So in this pie chart, what you see is the majority of individuals that were polled within the context of this research feel that homosexuality is wrong. Now, if you ask the exact same individuals whether or not they believe that same-sex couples should be allowed to marry, within the context of Canada, this is what you get. So you get a reversal of the opinion. So do you believe that homosexuality should be allowed to legally marry? You have 73% say yes, whereas 19% say no. and then you get that 7.7% again who are still unsure. My guess is that it's probably the same people. The key thing to note here is that there's a diametrically opposite opinion. You have the majority of people in question 1 think that homosexuality is wrong, but the majority of people in question 3, or question 2, there's a question in between these two here that you don't see, but the majority of people now believe that even though it's wrong, they should be allowed to legally marry. And what this demonstrates is how a person, each individual, may have a different perspective in terms of their ethics and their morals. So the question on the left really has to do with your morals. This is your personal opinion about homosexuality, and we've used the word wrong. So this is whether it's good or bad. And so when you're talking about wrong, good or bad comes up, and it's personal opinion. So somebody might say, you know, if you were one of the no's, you would say, no, I don't think it's wrong, it's not bad, there's nothing wrong with it. If you were one of the yeses, you would say the same thing, yes, I think it's bad, it's not natural, and so on and so forth. However, if you ask the same people the same question, as I noted, that actually flips. And so this is where ethics, or in this case the law, comes into play. So even though somebody might believe that homosexuality is morally wrong, they may also say, in the same context, that homosexuals should be able to marry. And what they're acknowledging is the ethical nature of the law. Because we know in Canada, same-sex couples have the exact same marriage rights as different sex couples. So the idea here is that, again, you might morally object to homosexuality. However, legally, you can't object to homosexuality as a legal contract of marriage, because this is what the law allows. Now, if we place this within the context of early childhood education, early child educators have this code of conduct. Now, this is one page from the Professional Code of Standards, and all I've done here is just highlighted a few of the essential components. So if we look at the top paragraph, the first thing is that it describes the scale and scope of the Code of Ethics. So it says that these are beliefs and values, again, remember Aristotle, value and virtue theory, that are fundamental to members of the profession and guide their conduct. So these are values that are universal to all members that are working within the early childhood education profession. So if you're a member of the early childhood education profession, these core beliefs, they apply to you. There is no personal opinion or perspective on whether or not these are good or bad. These are the values that all early childhood educators are held to. Now, if we look at some of the wording, for example, if you look at the circle in the bullet point A, this is where we get into some of the virtues that Aristotle referred to. So it says early childhood educators are caring, empathetic, fair, and act with integrity. So these are exactly words that Aristotle would use to describe what he wanted or what he meant when we said we strive to be a good person. So we strive to be caring, we strive to be empathetic, we strive to be fair, and we strive to act with integrity. These things are universal. They're not subjective, they're not personalized, they're not based on religion. Although you might be motivated by religion to act with integrity or be fair, these are values that can exist without religion. So fairness, integrity, caringness, these are virtue ethics. And so if we continue to look through the document, point B, you see the same use of terminology. So trust, openness, and respect for confidentiality. So the confidentiality part is something very specific. But again, we have trust, openness, and respect. We have being caring, empathetic, fair, and acting with integrity. Go back to the paragraph C, where it says responsibilities to colleagues in the profession. Again, you see respect, trust, and integrity. So this is where we get this reoccurring language that is used in ethical guidelines. And so it's really focused on the virtues of what it means to be a good early childhood educator, not on a personalized or subjective belief about what you think it means to be an early childhood educator. So this is an example of a code of ethics, not a code of moral beliefs. So it's not personal, this is objective, it's universal, it applies to all early childhood educators, and it's something that is referred to as an ethical code, not a moral code. Now, when we apply this concept to the idea of technology, we get a lot of varying ethical issues that relate to technology. So, Neil Postman wrote in his book Technopoly that a society becomes a technopoly when all forms of cultural life and submit to the sovereignty of technique and technology. And I like this cartoon because it really emphasizes how technology has become ubiquitous in our lives, but at the same time it's mysterious to us and it creates unique challenges. So the concept of anonymity is one of those concepts that has fundamentally altered the way that people communicate. It's entirely possible that you could be communicating with somebody online and you would have no idea who they were. Even though they might be able to post a picture of themselves, it could be a picture they found on the internet or a fake picture. And in this case, you have two dogs, and the black dog says on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. Now, what this leads to is a very brief discussion about some of the ethical issues that you're going to find on the internet or in relating to digital technologies. The first one is the idea of identity and privacy, which this cartoon directly alludes to. So it's the idea of what is your digital identity? How does it persist throughout the internet? Does it ever disappear? And these are all very complex issues we're not necessarily going to cover, but things you need to think about. Also thinking about issues of privacy. So when you post something on the internet, do you still own it? Is your identity, if it is on the internet, private or is it public? There's a lot of different cases where people post things on the internet and they think that it's private, but it's really not. So issues of identity and privacy really start to come up when we talk about issues related to technology. The second thing is this concept of ownership and authorship, and so this is a result of the malleability of information on the internet or on digital technologies. It's very easy to copy and paste something from one source and paste it into another, and so the question becomes, if you copy something and you paste it into another thing and then you say write about it or you manipulate the image or whatever, do you now own that image? Do you have to give attribution? Essentially, what I want you to be thinking about in relation to these things is what is your responsibility to the other person on the other end? Because a lot of times when we interact with technologies, we forget that there's a person on the other end. Another issue that deals with this is the concept of credibility and participation. So there is a fundamental aspect of the internet which basically follows that it requires people. People make the internet, and as people make the internet, there is a civic responsibility that individuals have to each other in their participation in the internet. And a final issue is looking at this responsibility and how it ties over into netiquette. You're going to be watching a video in a little bit which deals with some rules of engagement when you're talking about digital technologies. But really, what is your personal responsibility to other people? Because again, you have to remember that when you're looking at a computer screen, you're not actually just interacting with the computer. There are people on the other side of that screen, whether they be the people that you're instant messaging, the people who created the website that you're now using, the photographer who took the picture that you're going to take off of Google Images and throw into your PowerPoint. The challenge is that the technologies dehumanize the people. We can't see the person on the other end of the computer, and so it becomes very challenging to think of them or to consider them. And this is one of the challenges that you'll find with most ethical issues related to technology. So the question I'm going to leave you with as you head into the activities related to the rest of the online module is, how do we support ethics in the digital age? And this is a very broad question which encompasses both your own participation in digital technologies as well as the participation of the children in which you are going to care for and you are going to educate. Ultimately, the reality is that digital technologies are ubiquitous, they are everywhere, they are a part of our lives, and we are participating in them on a regular basis. So we need to be doing this in a very mindful and ethical way. And so the activities that have been built through the remainder of this online module are designed in order to get you thinking about some of the complexities that exist with these issues or dilemmas or challenges or whatever you want to call them in relation to technology.